Rustam, thank you for joining.
Good evening. Glad I could make it.
Yeah.
Good evening. Good evening.
Rustam, while Dr. Srini has also joined, we can get started. But Rustam, Dr. Chandrabas is the director of the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology here in Trivandrum. And Chandrabas, Rustam is an old colleague of mine from our PhD days in Baroda. Of course, while we were just struggling, Rustam has gone on to be senior vice president of several companies, including Lupin and now at Sun. So, and good afternoon, Dr. Srini, joining us from Basel, Switzerland. So we can get started without wasting any more time.
Good afternoon.
So good evening, everyone, and welcome to this Amrita School of Biotechnology webinar series. We have termed it Biotechnology, the future is now. And as the first session in this webinar series, we have this panel discussion, which we would like to term as Biotechnology in India today and the road ahead. For this panel discussion, I'm Vipin Nair. I head our School of Biotechnology here at Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. And with me for this panel discussion is Dr. Chandrabas Narayana, who's the director of the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology in Trivandrum here in Kerala. Dr. Srinivasan is the founder of Supra Oncology at Switzerland. And Dr. Rustam Modi, Senior Vice President, Sun Pharmaceuticals, Baroda. So it's a real pleasure to have such a distinguished panel of speakers, Dr. Chandrabas, having spent some time after his PhD as a postdoc at Cornell, and then joined and was professor at the Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research in Bangalore, and currently is the director of the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology in Trivandrum. Dr. Srinivasan, founder of Supra Oncology, with 30 years of experience at all the major pharma companies, Pfizer, Novartis, GlaxoSmithKline, AstraZeneca, with global leadership for innovative pharma, vaccines, and generics, has been the managing director of a global CRO also. A lot of experience in global development and commercialization in multiple therapy areas: cardiovascular, neuroscience, oncology, respiratory, immunology, anti-infectives. So welcome to you, sir, for joining us. Welcome, Dr. Chandrabas. And of course, a real pleasure to have with us Dr. Rustam Modi, Senior Vice President and Head of R&D Biologics at Sun Pharma in Baroda. Rustam, of course, has over 30 years of biopharmaceutical industry experience, is the head of research and development, and has also been heading manufacturing and quality control. Hands-on experience that Rustam has in developing biosimilar products to vaccines from concept to commercialization here in India. And 3 biosimilar products are in development, 3 novel biologics. So all very distinguished achievements. And what we would like to do is to tap into that expertise and try to address some key questions that are at the helm here in our consideration of making India a strong biotechnology source. And looking at that as stakeholders, as students, as faculty, people in the industry, representing the government, what do we do to look forward to and realize that biotechnology, as we call it, and the future is now. So what can be done at multiple levels to harness the potential of that biotechnology, to make it a key driver of this knowledge and innovation-based bioeconomy in India that we are looking forward to? What are the focus areas that can make India globally competitive in biotech research, innovation, translation, and industrial growth. We've been talking about the fact that by 2025, India could become a 150 billion US dollar bioeconomy. So what are we doing? What can be done to strengthen biotech education, biotech research, and the translational ecosystem across the country? These are the efforts that can make India a global player for both development and deployment. So looking at some of these priority development areas, India is certainly moving from a centrally planned economy to a decentralized market-driven economy. The technological upgradation that is necessary is an important and vital component of the strategy. Of course, we are cognizant of the fact that India has paid a lot of importance to science and technology. For example, the total annual investment in India for research and development is up to 6,000 crore rupees, about 2 billion US dollars. Of course, in comparison, 157 billion is what the US spends, or 90 billion is what Japan has set aside, or even South Korea has 5.4 billion. So that economic development, that social inclusion, that environmental sustainability, all of those are essential for achieving what has now become a common term, Atmanirbhar Bharat. So there is a need for an accountable research ecosystem that would promote translational as well as foundational research in India, and that can be in alignment with global standards. So India is moving quickly towards becoming a knowledge and innovation-based bioeconomy, and biotechnology has to be a key driver in that effort. So as part of this webinar, this panel discussion with all the stalwarts in their different respective domains, what I would like to address initially, and I would like all of us to jointly put our heads together and address these some of these questions. For example, the first point that I would like us to address is, what is the status of biotechnology industries, biotech companies and the pharmaceutical companies in India? How are they faring? Is there hope that they can at some point lead the way, or is there a lot of hype? Have there been major effects of the pandemic that we just went through on the biotech industry in India? Some of these questions I'd like to start out with, and can we have Dr. Rustam Modi give his perspective on what is the status of the biotechnology industry here in India today? Rustam?
Sure. Thank you, Vipin. I think you gave a good start, summing up the progress and probably the opportunities that lies ahead. I'm sure many of the students who could be listening to this webinar would certainly agree that in the last 2 years, India has carved a big name when it comes to biotechnology and biotechnology-based vaccine developments and so on. India has become self-sufficient, as you very well know. In fact, we did not just make 1 or 2 vaccines, but we developed 4 of them commercially, 2 of them for the pediatric purpose, and some of them are of very novel platforms, such as the DNA-based vaccine. This only goes to show that India has really come of the age in terms of developing new technologies and products that are so important from both pharmaceutical point of view, from immunological point of view, and so on. And if you look at the kind of products that are currently under development, I can very well say that in the coming few years, we will have very broad expertise developed in biotechnology. It's not going to be just biosimilars or just restricted to vaccines or restricted to novel biological entities. But I'm pretty sure we will get into gene therapy products, RNA-based products, and very different kinds of, I would say, novel biologics that are likely to come from Indian industries. A few years back, if I have to take a look, there was not much of biotechnology around in this country, okay? Getting good resources was also a constraint. But today I can say that many pharma companies in India have gotten into biotechnology. And all of these who have gotten into biotechnology or biopharmaceutical manufacturing are really seeing a great degree of, I would say, boost, not only to their bottom line or the revenues, but also they look at it as a good platform to launch their products outside of India. So even the exports have moved up. Look at how Serum Institute of India, Biocon are doing. In fact, they have their molecules registered outside India and are doing phenomenally. So in short, I would say it is not a hype, but it is a reality that in the coming few years, we will see a much bigger kind of a play from Indian biopharma companies.
Thank you, Rustom. Dr. Srini, you'd like to add to that?
First of all, I would like to thank Amrita School of Biotechnology for giving me the opportunity. And it's such a privilege to join the panel here. Dr. Rustom Modi and you both have highlighted there is a tremendous potential and there are some evidences are there, right? So I'm more thinking from a perspective of there was a period of chemistry and there was a lot of innovation happening in the chemistry. And India took the lead, and today India is a global leader in supply of generic formulations. We were able to achieve the leadership. The face of Steve Jobs said that the biggest change or the biggest innovation impact of the 21st century is going to be at the intersection of biology and technology. So we are at a very early stage of the biotechnology innovation that's happening around the world. And we are preparing to achieve whatever the potential we have, right? We are at an early stage of achieving whatever we can achieve or what we achieved in the area of chemistry. So there is an investment going on, but the investment that is going on is nothing compared to some of the things that are happening worldwide, right? So if you talk about 6,000 crores, Dr. Vipin, you mentioned. So at the same time, you also mentioned that 125 billion is being invested in the US, right? We pride ourselves with the frugal innovation, and we are very good with that. But having said that, the biggest advantage we have, and we have achieved in the chemistry innovation, is through people. The talent we have is going to help us even in propel the opportunity, even in the biotechnology. When you ask people who are investing hundreds of billions of dollars, you ask them, what is the biggest challenge or the gap that they face? The number one challenge they say is talent. And India has the talent. So somewhere, and the Indian talent also, previously people used to go and achieve things, and some of them have come back. Here itself is an example of people who have gone, learned, and then you have come back and you're making an impact here. So I think to sum it up, we are at a very early stage of what innovation can achieve in the biotechnology. We have the ingredients that is essential to meet the challenge that the world is facing, which is a talent. And and also we have seen success in the recent years, as Dr. Modi was mentioning, that we have shown that we can achieve something. But there are many more actions need to take place to realize the potential.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Srini. And those are very important points, especially with the young student audience that may be part of this event, to have that confidence that what even the pharmaceutical industry at a global level is looking for is talent that is trained in the right way. And that is where we are the richest. Dr. Chandrabas, you'd like to add on to that? You're muted, Dr. Chandrabas.
Sorry. First of all, I would like to thank Amrita School of Biotechnology and Vipin for inviting me to this really very talented people around in the panel. I completely agree with what has been said by Rustam and Srini. These are the main things we need to look at when we are looking at how biotechnology is growing in India. I agree with Srini that there is a need to improve the education system and equip Indian students with the knowledge which would actually fit into the industry. And this is something we need to work, and that is work in progress right now. One major thing which we need to actually look at it is today we realize that biotechnology is not just biology, it is a highly interdisciplinary area. And this needs to be emphasized whenever the program on biotechnology is done. We need a sound knowledge of biology, but alongside, we need to actually make these students aware of the technology which is coming from maths, engineering, chemistry. All of these needs to be actually completely integrated into their program. So we need a very strong biology. That is very, very important. And any biotechnology program needs a strong biology. But what is missing is this engineering aspects, the mathematics, then your chemistry, and of course, some amount of physics is very, very important if you want to actually be developing innovation, developing newer areas, contributing to the workforce. All of these things require that to be developed. So new education policy, which has been coming, is a boon for this for the universities now. There is a lot of scope for improvement in the curricula and making sure that the students get exposed to it. There is another important thing which is required for these talents to be developed. I'm concentrating from the academic point of view. We need interactions with, while they are going through the biotechnology, they need interactions with the tallest figures in the biotechnology areas, and they should be able to be in touch with these people. And that's a very important thing for career growth in biotechnology. So the universities need to bring in all these experts physically into their campuses and expose these students to them. The other aspect which I would also like to emphasize is experience in industrial safety, industrial way of working, which is not being taught in universities. And that needs to be also developed alongside. So this is only possible if we have specific people from industry coming in and be part of the curriculum in teaching. So these are the areas to look at. And comment on from the government side is that we are highly confident that biotechnology is going to grow If it grows at the pace at which it is growing today, even during the pandemic of 12%, I think we reach in 2025 around $115 billion of bioeconomy. And if we grow at, say, a slower pace of 10%, we should be able to reach 105 billion in 2025, which is not bad compared to what we are thinking. But we are ambitious. So if we want growing at 20 to 30%, then we should be able to hit 150 billion. And that's what the government of India is pushing hard. There are a lot of things happening at BIRAC, Department of Biotechnology, Department of Science and Technology to promote this. And there will be large amount of funding which will be coming. I also would like to mention that when we talk about the investment in countries like US and in Japan and other places, there is a huge overheads, which is also accounting for the funding. That can go up to about 35 to 50% as overheads. And that brings down the actual investment. Whereas in India, the overheads on these investments are lesser. And that's why we, though see the numbers to be 2% of what, or even 1% of what the foreign countries are doing, we are actually doing much better than that. So this needs to be actually also looked into. So with that, I will stop myself.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrabas. I'll come back to you with some more points about government support and so on. But while we were on the point of what the industry can be doing, I just wanted to get their view, both Dr. Srini and Dr. Rustam, on what is the current perspective with respect to clinical trials being conducted in India, because as we have heard and as we have known, definitely it's more cost effective. There is much better, in fact, in terms of confidence, it's much higher. The capabilities and the skill sets that we have in our workforce here in India have propelled many global pharmaceutical companies to increase their clinical research investment in India. So if you could share your views on what is the global perspective of carrying out clinical trials for developing drugs in the Indian setting, I'm sure everyone would benefit from that. Dr. Rustam and Srini?
Sure, I'll take this first. Clinical developments are beginning to be, it will be playing a very key role for any product development, whether it is developed by an Indian company or whether it is developed outside India. And clinical cost is one of the biggest chunk of money that a company spends in developing a product. So if let's say a product costs, let's say 100 million, I would say 70 million would go behind just the cost of clinical trials. So the companies are now looking towards India as a means to reduce this cost, because not every company can afford to spend such a big chunk of money for the development of their product. And the reason why Indian clinical trials cost low is, number one, you can have more recruitments done in a short period of time because of sheer number of patients that you find in this country. And also there are so many good hospitals, clinical centers, pathological centers, medical professionals, every way it is enabling. So there are companies who want India to be one of the key centers for conducting clinical trials. It need not be 100% of the population, Indian population, to be used for the clinical trial, but at least a good chunk of number of patients will be enrolled from India. So clinical trials will become one of the mainstay for Indian businesses. And if any of the students are interested in getting into that discipline also, I believe it's a very good area. Even a statistician or anybody who is good in statistics would possibly look at a good opportunity to be there, because there are not enough statisticians available in the country to do a clinical statistical evaluations and so on. So in every respect, I see that clinical developments will see a good future. And if there are students who are interested in that discipline, I think there is a future that holds for them.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. And Dr. Srini?
I see clinical development as a very essential pillar for any innovative pharmaceutical product to be developed, because what it gives you the evidence to allow the regulators to allow whether the product should be used or not. So the way to think about this is there are three major trends that are happening, disrupting this clinical development world. So the first one is, as Dr. Bodhi said that, right? So there is a cost of development is increasing, right? But there is a parallel trend that is happening, is the personalized medicine is happening. See, the days where people have tackled the hypertension, diabetes, the large number of patients, how do we reach them? Through advertisement. And how do we really get the pool of patients? And in terms of at a lower cost, was the need 10, 15 years ago. Today, the world is with the biology advancements, right? People are seeking more personalized treatment. The money, the investment is going towards finding who these patients are and how do we get these patients into the clinical trials. So in this context, India plays a very significant role, because for any clinical trial, there are inclusion-exclusion criteria, and sometimes you need treatment-naive patients for these. Whereas in some of the other countries, such patients are not available. So India has a enormous pool of the patients who are treatment-naive, who are newly diagnosed, who could be readily available for the participation in trials, leave alone the cost. Because we can't every time think about cost as a means, right? We should be really jumping in saying that, hey, listen, we have the patients. If innovation has to find its role in the world, there is an evidence needs to happen, and the clinical trials have to happen fast. So, and India can play a very important role there, because we have the right, because of this, the availability of the pool of patients who are waiting to participate in the trials can be really brought into this treatment regime at an early stage. The second one that is happening is India can play a role is more and more they're saying that the number of patients to do double-blind trials is increasingly becoming more complex, right? You have to find somebody like twice the number of patients. So what they're saying is, can we use the real-world evidence to use as synthetic control arm, so that we can compare with the real-world evidence with the treatment, so that we can get to the product, get to the market faster. So if you want to do real-world evidence, it is all about data and it is all about technology in the world. I'm just not thinking about India patients. I'm thinking about the global in terms of the data and the technology to analyze it. India has been very, very good from a talent perspective, whether analysis, right? All the major analysis, analytics world is happening in India. So why can't this happen in the healthcare world also? So we need to have the kind of, in terms of the structures, the processes in place, so that you can drive the real world evidence analysis and can contribute to the global clinical trials. The third aspect that is happening, and COVID really gave the impetus to the whole thing, is the traditional mindset of doing clinical trial at a center as an investigative center, asking the patients to come to the center and do all the trials, all the things. Now it is changing. COVID has changed, saying that you can do the virtual care at home. So there is a whole new care world of remote care monitoring is happening. When it comes to remote care, India is already ahead, right? English speaking, you can monitor the clinical trials anywhere in the world from India. All that you need is a technology, right? So you can really participate in the third wave of how do you look at how can I some of the CRO, some of the clinical trials, how do I participate in the global trials in many ways? So I can participate through in engaging in the virtual care, remote monitoring, or I can look at the real world evidence and I can really come out with insights that could change the way we can look at the evidence risk benefit ratio. Or we have the patient pool, so come and do the trials here. So you can still participate from here, or you can do the trials here. So I think in all the three dimensions, India is in a fantastic place. And then it's a question of the policies, the all the other ecosystem have to develop. See, it's a mindset of the ecosystem, right? But I would not undermine the regulator's viewpoint, right? That's also changing. Everybody says, okay, I need diverse trials. I need trials to be conducted for approval of drug should be conducted in my country, right? There is a counter trend is also happening, right? So to that question, I would say that India provides the diversity. So if you're looking at diversity of population, then you should come to India too. So there's a lot of pluses and minuses that are happening, right? And this industry continues to be there, right? Dr. Rustam Modi mentioned that this is a fantastic career opportunity for people who want to pursue this. They can get into the areas where they can develop the knowledge. They can even prepare themselves to participate in this clinical research, clinical development area, prepare long-term career growth, and be in India and participate in the global level in terms of thinking, capabilities, everything.
Thank you, Srini. Because there is a large student audience or people who are interested in pursuing a career in biotechnology, but are at the crossroads and wondering whether that is the right direction to take. And there are already a number of questions that have come up on the chat box. So we will try to address that as we go. We have about 20 minutes more. But to address some of those issues, and Dr. Chandrabas touched upon that a little bit, could you give an idea of what the government has in its view as a future of biotechnology in India? Dr. Chandrabas?
Right. First of all, the question most of them, the student audience at least, is having that whether we should take biotechnology and whether we should take biotechnology from the engineering point of view or biotechnology from the science point of view. This is something which is always working on them. This question comes only because we in India believe that if you have an engineering degree, you are more employable compared to a science degree. And this is true in many areas. That is correct. And but in principle, the engineering is only making you a skill-oriented person compared to a science degree, which actually makes you a holistic person who can actually do, even learn. That's exactly the reason I said we need to have a mix of both engineering and science in both these courses. And once you do that, then you would actually not have any disadvantages if you want to join BSc Biotechnology. So this is only to answer some of the questions which people have been telling. There are many institutions of repute which are offering these biotechnology courses. So there is no dearth of places where people can do. And as the industry's experts, both Rustam and Srini, have mentioned that there is a large potential for talented pool, there is a lot of job availability. So it is not just the curriculum which you need to look at. You need to develop the wherewithals as you grow in that area. So internships or trying to actually be in touch with many of the things happening in the industry needs to be done. Now, from the government point of view, there's a huge see, biotechnology used to be, biology itself is a very expensive proposition in sciences to do. If you look at chemistry or physics, you don't need that kind of money. But the kind of money which is required for doing biotechnology or biology itself is very expensive. Today, after the pandemic, there's been a huge jump in the funding. If I just give an example of Department of Biotechnology, itself, the funding has jumped by about 30 to 40% in their funding. So huge amount of money is available and great facilities have started. If just to say that 2 biotechnology institutions have immediately set up a vaccine testing facility, fully equipped to do for industry vaccine testing facility. One is in NCCS and another one is in NIAB. These 2 institutions themselves have started. Unfortunate it is that the industries have not got this information and they're waiting for people to come. So there is an advertisement problem which is existing, that we are setting up facilities. Now, animal BSL-3s are getting developed. There's a huge number of animal BSL-3s which are getting set up. These are all required. BSL-3s are being set up. BSL-4 is being set up. So we are actually getting prepared for any kind of research which we want to do. So there is a lot of requirement for talented biotechnology students once they get trained in the right way to, even in the academia, to get employed or to pursue research in the academia itself, let alone the industry point of view. So the government has been now promoting, and even yesterday when I was actually with the Deputy Secretary, as you alluded to earlier, that I was in Delhi. So we are talking about how to help the industry to be able to utilize this academia so that they can actually bring down the cost. There can be a new ideas which can come out while they are developing these various things. Like today, there is a huge, something you also are interested, there's a huge investment going on in AI and machine learning and deep learning in, say, trying to find out the drugs which would be the right targets for the therapeutic proteins, and also to try to understand what is happening in the things which Srini also alluded to in his earlier remarks. So there is a strong potential India has, because we have a talented set of people who can actually work in bioinformatics, AI, deep learning. All of these things are available now. There is a huge push for it, and there is a knowledge commission. Sorry, there is a NKM mission which has been set up. Now there are various institutions which have this supercomputers available and a huge data storage is available for people to use this for helping the biotechnology industries to come up with the right molecules or right way to go forward. And another potential area where the government is actually pushing Indian perspective is to use our traditional medicines. We have a whole lot of phytochemistry which is existing. We know the molecules. We need to actually check their possibilities, whether they can be the potentials, whether that can get marketed. So there is a huge push from the government for getting our traditional medicines, both homeopathy, Siddha, Ayurveda, all of these things we are actually pushing for it. So we can be the leaders in cure for many of these diseases which are actually traditional knowledge exists. We need prove it that this is actually working. So there's a whole lot of things where the funding is going. So with that, I'll stop, because there's a lot of things government has put in with this perspective to reach 150 billion.
Thank you, Chanbas, for that added insight into what the government can do and would do. One other question that comes up is, again, India is considered a biotechnology investment destination. From that perspective, how would you look at it, Dr. Srini, on how the students should or young researchers should try to sort of sharpen their skills or try to get trained in specific areas so that you can take advantage of those opportunities or and be aware of the challenges that may be there.
So, see, biotechnology for me is such a large field, right? It's like I think it's important when you look at it from an individual perspective. It's important to look at the two dimensions. The first dimension is what is that I'm good at doing, right? Not all of us are good at doing everything well. So there is a one aspect that is everybody knows, they know at least to themselves that this is what I'm good at doing. And I think have a reflection and introspection of what is that I'm good at doing. The other aspect is that what is that I'm passionate about it, right? So there is always excellence happens when at the intersection where what is that I'm good at doing and what is that I'm passionate about it. Because if I'm not passionate about it, even though I'm good at doing, you're not going to give your best. So that's the first thing one has to look at it when you start your career. I wish I had known this much earlier, right? I discovered it over the years, and nobody has told me. You figure out, and then you say, okay. So reflect on that. Second is academia. So this is more for the students, right? So the institutions gives you the platform. The government enables the ecosystem and the funding. But at the end of it, right, when there are, I think Dr. Modi mentioned, and there are huge opportunities are there. But the question is, it's up to you how you want to excel, right? And there are areas that you want to pursue. So if you take biotech, I'm not just looking at only the life sciences biotech, because biotech has applications in agriculture, applications in energy, in huge applications. Let's take only the life sciences. And if you look at, and even within life sciences, even narrow it to discovery and development and commercialization of medicines. If you just take that one, right? In all the three areas, you have phenomenal opportunities you can look at it. If you want to participate in the discovery, you need to have deep science knowledge, right? Or deep technology knowledge. You can't be everything and then achieve in the discovery space. And even in the science, you have an intersection of disease area, and you have an intersection of where you want to participate. Right? Do you want to understand some of these cells? Do you want to understand the immunology? You want to understand? So you need to have a deeper knowledge if you really want to have a career in the discovery. Some of you are asking about, is PhD should I do, master's you should do. It is not about the degree, right? It's about how much the depth of knowledge you have is so vital. When it comes to development, it's a different kind of the skill set that are required, right? You get the new molecule, then you are generating the evidence for it. And how do you generate evidence? You need to do trials. You need to identify some of the toxicity, side effects. You need to look at the efficacy results. So you have a varied skills. It's always development is a multidisciplinary item. So people from medical, people from science, people from statistics, Dr. Chandrabas was mentioning, people from different disciplines come together and look at the evidence. So all the opportunities, if you're pursuing statistics, can I participate in clinical development? Of course you can participate. If I'm good with the data, I'm good with numbers, I can see the numbers. Of course you can get involved in the data management. Oh, I can do a lot of analysis. Of course. No, I want to apply medicine into this one. Okay, you can get into a particular disease area, you can get into the development area. Oh, I'm involved in monitoring things operationally in the world. You can become a clinical trial monitor, you can look at it. So there are, whether from pharmacovigilance to medical to clinical research insights, there are huge opportunities. So don't bucket it into a CRO. No, don't look at it as a development. and look at what area you want to. For that, you need to have a deeper understanding of what kind of opportunities exist and map it with what you want to do and what you're good at doing. So when it goes to commercialization, right? You can look at India as a market, or you can look at India as a resource. That's how the world is looking at. Am I looking at India as a market so that the drugs are available for the patients in India? Or am I looking at India as a resource, a fantastic capability that I can leverage upon? So just have that perspective. And do you really want to play in the India as a market? You need to get experience in the Indian marketplace. If you want to look at, I want to be a capability, I want to play in you need to understand deeper understanding of what's happening in the world. So that's how the commercial market situation is looked at. So break this life sciences into discovery, development, and commercialization. But there is one piece I have not told you, right? And that the piece is all of this is the ability to manufacture and supply this. India is a world leader in the supply. So I can say that, look, I want to be involved in the production of this. I'm very good at constructing things. I'm able to organize things. So one can pursue a career in manufacturing. Or you can also look at saying that, no, I'm good with numbers and I want to be in that space. You can be the supply chain expert. Oh, I want to apply some of the new technologies. Of course, you can apply new technology in supply chain because you can look at predictive analytics. You can use saying that what is required, how do I use the data, how do I apply the technology, how do I use programming skills to predict the technology. So if you look at the 3 pillars, or maybe you can look at the 4, in each of the areas, there are plenty of opportunities. Always remember, I must excel. And the way I can excel is by looking at what I'm good at doing and what is that I'm passionate about.
Thank you, Srini, for that very insightful sort of address on that. I just wanted to expand that with some comments from Dr. Chandrabas, because he has had that kind of an experience in bringing in innovation from existing knowledge, taking Raman spectroscopy to a different level of innovation and application in the Indian concept. So, Dr. Chandrabas.
Thank you. Yes, I perfectly agree with what Srini was mentioning, because you need to actually know what you are good at. That is the bottom line. So we need to actually develop that area, what you are good at, and then look for opportunities. That is what every student should be looking at. That once you know that, then you can do it. Now, there is a lot of disruptive technology which is coming into the market, and that is what is the new way of looking at how to get into the system. So coming from, you are actually having to compete. India is actually, very rightly said, we are being looked at most likely as a market. And that is what we need to change. We need to be actually leaders also. And for this is the requirement for us to actually not be confined with our small shells, but we need to actually look at what you can contribute from your knowledge. That was what Srini was saying, that I come from a physics background and I started learning biology, and my knowledge of biology was in 12th standard. The last I studied biology was in 12th standard. Today, you would have realized that I have actually complete understanding of what biology is, which I am doing, because I can understand what protein is. How does one understand genetics? How does one understand all of these things? I learned it myself. So if the students can realize that you can learn at any point of time, anything, you don't need a formal education, that is sufficient. And you need to actually come with that mindset that I will learn anything whenever it is required. And I don't need a degree for it. And that is exactly what Srini was saying. Degree is not important. It is important that you know your fundamentals very well. And that once you know the fundamentals well, then you would always build on that. And today, our curriculum, which may be getting diluted soon, 11th and 12th knowledge is good enough for most of the things we are doing in future. We are only building on those knowledges, not because we teach everything in 12th, 11th and 12th. So you need only that much knowledge. You specialize in something, but you go ahead. So what, coming back to the question you asked is, you really have huge potential now in India to create your own space, your own way of dealing with things. And that is what all these young minds who are very, very talented, they need to be given that opportunity to develop themselves into an area where they would be able to contribute significantly in the technology development and innovation. And technology development and innovation need to be inculcated rather than being taught. It needs to be actually, you need to develop it yourself. And we are lacking in that. Today, everybody thinks of innovation and technology and all of those things. Most of us are still believing, to give an example, we are all talking about big things, but we do at cellular level. It has no meaning to the patient. It doesn't have any meaning to the patient, whatever we are doing research. We need to change that. So today the need is to come from the clinic, that is bed to lab. That transition has to happen in India. And that is what will lead it. And that's what I had a discussion with you, that I want more clinicians to be deciding what problems we need to work on, and then work on human health problems. And today there is a great opportunity again, because India is now looking at One Health program, which is integrating multi institutions, multi ministries together. And the challenge today is to bring all of these people together. So if I want to bring a forester or for surveillance and to predict a disease going to come up much ahead of time and then tackle it, you need to start from surveillance to doctors, to link up to the medical practitioners, to think about drug discovery, researcher, trying to actually find pathways, various other things. All of these things should be integrated. So that requires you to start from education to forestry, to environment, to looking at your biotechnology, various other things. So this is something which is happening now, and we are in the right space. So there is a large opportunity available for students to develop from any field and get into biotechnology.
Thank you, Chandabas, for that outlook on the point that we were discussing. I was reminded that we are getting close to 1 hour since we started. And I was a little concerned that there were lots of questions from people who are on the program, on the event. But I wanted to thank both Rustam and Srini and Chandabas for having responded while we were discussing, responded to some of the questions that were being asked directly to the people who were asking those questions. I could very well have gone on for another hour. So interesting is this discussion, but I would have to probably plan on part 2 of this discussion sometime down the road, because that's how interesting it is. With that, Rustam, if you have any additional points I haven't asked you to chip in, you have been pounding away, responding to all those questions that were being asked. Any final comments before we conclude?
Well, I think we had a good discussion today, and this is a great opportunity for students to pick up what lies ahead. So it's a very wonderful program that you have constructed, Bipin, to give the students a good glimpse of what lies ahead for them. I can see from the questions that I was answering that at this age, you often get confused because of some different feelers you get from different kind of people, especially the social networking. And I tried to make sure that they take the right choices here. So I think this kind of a session is important for the students to pick up what is good and what is not good, and also develop their career interest and so on. I think also there are many opportunities that the government is constructing to bring industry and academia together. There are beautiful programs. A lot of money is riding from the government. It's only for the academia to just tie up with some industries, and the money will start to flow. I have, in my previous organization, I had a program which was funded by BioTech up to 45 crore rupees. So there is a lot of money that can flow. It's only that a good program has to be developed. And here the benefits definitely passes on to the students of the academia. So establishing something like that will be a good bridge between an academia and an industry.
Yeah, I do want to share the fact that from the very beginning, since the inception of the Amrita School of Biotechnology, my association with Rustam has allowed our students to have direct contact with the industry. Rustam used to be at Intas in Ahmedabad, moved to Lupin in Pune, now moved to Sun at Baroda. And all along, we've had the privilege of sending our MSc students to an industry setting, doing 6 months of project work, doing excellent, carrying out excellent research, and then having the opportunity to be recruited by these companies. And that sort of a setting is what we have always strived to, having our students benefit from the research that is carried out. For example, at least 20-25 of our students every year go to the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology and carry out their 6 months of project work, excellent research guided by the PIs, by the scientists who are carrying out research on live areas. And then thanks again to Dr. Srini Srinivasan, also now coming into the fold and recruiting some of our students to join Supra Oncology. And we hope that we can live up to the expectations of the industry, of the research fraternity, looking at careers in biotechnology and making things better so that we can achieve that goal of making India a knowledge and innovation driven bioeconomy and be successful at that. With that, I want to say a special thank you to Dr. Chandrabas Narayana for taking the time from his busy schedule, having flown in from Delhi this afternoon after attending a meeting there yesterday. Dr. Rustam Modi reminded me that it may be difficult for him because there was a CDSCO approval for one of his products that was happening this afternoon. I was nervous that he may not be able to make it, but he managed to finish that and join us. And of course, Dr. Srini, all the way from Basel, Switzerland, joining us for this event. I'm sure everyone who were part of this program would have definitely benefited from that. But even otherwise, if there are any other burning questions that you have about your career, about your future, about the future of biotechnology in India and what we can do to help you, we are always available at the Amrita School of Biotechnology to help you, to guide you, to help take you to the next level. And with that, I just want to once again thank Dr. Chandabas, Dr. Rustam Modi, Dr. Srini Srinivasan for taking the time and providing us with these valuable inputs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vipin.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice meeting all of you. Thanks.
We can conclude this session and hopefully have some more along the way. This was just session 1 of our theme, Biotechnology, the future is now. So let us take it along and look to future such events. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.